Now with the mix that we mixed to do the stenciling, I've let this dry. I'm now going to take and I'm going to dry brush right on the edge of this brim, just to put a little bit of a highlight. And then I'm going to dry brush up on the top of her hat. And I'm going to flip her over and do a little bit right here as well. Can come down to these edges. I'm not going all the way around it. And I can put a little on the top as well. Okay, now I'm going to take and I'm going to do a side load float around this edge of the brim. This is covered with the piece of hat that goes on top. So I'm using this same color, the mix that we stenciled with. And I'm going to float a highlight along here. You don't know where it stops, but it's getting covered up here with the piece. So we're good for there. All right, so that just gives us a little bit of a highlight, lifting the hat off of this background because the background is dark. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to take, and I'm just going to come along here and apply a coat all the way along underneath there. We're going to do the back as well the same way. So I'm doing a wet coat of the sand gray. I'm using my 1/2 inch shader. And we're going to put pleats in. Some people have stronger, darker, it makes no difference. Oops, I got a chunky. So we've got a coat in there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of our plum suede lavender mix. And I'm going to chisel. Now I don't want complete full lines from top to bottom. So I'll go through. Now you'll probably get a little on your shirt. I'm a delinquent base coater, so I don't have a shirt. Ooh, I don't know where that chunk came from. And you'll pick up your sand gray as you go and just chisel in. You're not looking to make so much to make the pants deep pleats. You're kind of doing stripes. Now you see I'm going to curve the direction that my fabric would be going. So you can have some, flatten your brush to the chisel and that'll give you some darker pleats and some finer, not really pressed too hard so they won't be fat. We're going to shade nice and strong along the top afterwards. So once you get that in there, you're going to pick up a little bit of warm white on your brush and just come in and highlight a couple. Kind of more to the middle. Just a little bit of warm white. You're not looking for lots. We just want a little bit of a highlight. So I'll continue over there, but it's the same thing. Okay, so we're going to shade with the mix that we chiseled in our pleats under the coat line. I have to touch my coat up from my chiseling marks anyway, but we'll shade along there. And then I'm going to shade along the shoes, above the shoes at the bottom of the leg, and I'll come up the middle of the leg. Again, over on this side. And I'll get my mop and mop that out. All right. So with my 0 round, I'm going to take and I'm going to apply the stripes with the mix on my shirt. Whatever size gap you leave between, that's the size you do all the way down. Makes no difference. Alrighty. So using my 3/8, I'm gonna shade Plum Suede next to the jacket on my shirt. You can shade along the bottom there and then back up this side. Once we've shaded it, you can mop it nice and softly. I'll dry that, and then I'm going to dry brush up the center with Mary's brush. So I'm dry brushing up the middle of the shirt over those stripes. It's going to give me a roundness to my shirt. I've mixed aloe and neutral gray 1:1, and I'm going to shade on my jacket like we see in the picture. We're going to shade on the collar right where it bends. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to shade under the collar. Now remember, don't press hard. Keep your float nice and soft. And if you want to walk it out at all, you lean to the water part of your brush. I'm going to come up here and shade up that crease. Now I'll shade next to the arm, so it's kind of a back-to-back float. And you can shade inside that little cuff, or you can paint it in, whatever's better for you. All right, so I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then as far as our feet go, we're going to shade along the bottom of our shoe. Up the sides of the leaves, creating the shape to our leaves. Along the bottom and then down the middle. And we'll float highlights along the top. And we'll be doing a little bit of highlight dry brushing as well. We're going to shade the back of our jacket. So we want to shade to separate her sleeves from the jacket. So I'll start with that. I'll shade to separate her sleeves from the jacket. And you'd want to go around the back side as well. So on the side of it. Now we're going to shade all the way along underneath the hat. A lot of this is going to be hidden with the wings. But we'll just put it there anyway. I'm also going to shade a little with what's left on my brush up the sides. Once this is done, I'm going to float a little highlight. We're going to be making our highlight out of a mixture of equal parts of white, sand gray, and aloe. I'm going to float my highlight along the bottom of her jacket. I've got a 3/8 out, but I think my 1/2 inch would have been a better choice. And we're going to float on this side. I'm going to float along the edge of, whoops, I picked a little bit of dirty paint up there. Okay, I'm going to float a highlight along the edge of my cuff, both hands. And then along the outer edge of our coat collar. So I float all along there. There. So we've floated our highlight there. You're going to take and dry brush now with the highlight color. And I'll dry brush in the middle of the front of the jacket here. There we go. Now I got a bit of paint on there. A little bit in the middle of the sleeves. This just pops up and shapes our clothing a bit more. You see I'm resting this on something so that it's not getting right on it. And then we're going to take our 0 round. We're going to take that mix that we did our base coating with, that I put in a little container. Here we go. And we're going to add our trim around the bottom of our jacket, following whatever shape we have. And then we have the trim on her cuffs. And we bring it now. I got a hold of a couple of tiny buttons that were nice and small, and I've painted them in this mix. And they're going to get, once it's varnished, they're going to get glued on right here and here on her jacket. Now we also have this trim coming along here. This is what's carried on in the back, but it's not, of course, on the bottom of her cuffs. Oops. So we have it there. You can see I'm missing a little bit there. And we have it there. All right, so that's adding the trim. Now we talked about adding a highlight, so I'm going to take in my dry brush and highlight float color. I'm going to take the 0 round. You can use your liner or your 0 round. And I'm going to outline the edge on my cuffs. I can outline a little bit of edge on my collar if I'd like as well. I like to do that if I've kind of happened to go over my edge with my shading. That happens a bit. So this is our highlight color, and I'm just going around with that. It gives a little finished look to it. All right,